Buenas noches. Biali, nanotoka, huelei, Juan Nosonquisca Organista, Nieva Chapotbe, Mexico. Hello, my name is Huelei Organista, and I'm originally from La Ciudad de Mexico, Chapultepec, and I introduce myself in Nahuatl, which is one of the indigenous languages in Mexico and what the Aztecs speak. I introduce myself like this because my grandma challenges me to do that anytime I'm in a group. I would like to also recognize that we are on stolen land. We are in Milwaukee, but we are on the land of the following peoples: the Peora, the Potawatomi, Nomiami, Miami, and Shio. So I am the LULAC National Vice President of the Youth. I started doing youth-to-youth empowerment since I was 12 years old. Anyone 12 years old here? Okay, what? You're not 12. So it all started when I led a walkout in middle school. Has anyone participated in a walkout before? Yeah, we gotta do that, right, sometimes. So it also started when I produced a film documentary about racism and ethnic stereotyping in Utah schools when I was 15 years old. At age 18, I also presented at the Fourth World Congress on Child and Adolescent Rights, which is a summit that they have by the United Nations. As youth, we can and should be leading on issues and movements that we are passionate about, whether that be about environmental justice, gun safety, or dismantling the school-to-prison pipeline. We have always had the power to lead, right? So hashtag together we. So, you know who else has been leading, especially since they were young? Bernie Sanders, yeah. So Senator Bernie Sanders has been leading on issues and movements that he has been passionate about for decades. Back during the 2016 presidential election, I volunteered back in Utah, that's where I live, for his campaign as the outreach contact in Utah. He inspired me as a young Latino and so many other young people of color across the country. I remember during the primary election, people in my neighborhood being in lines for sometimes many hours so they could just cast a vote for him. Senator Bernie Sanders is running for president again, and LULAC is a nonpartisan organization, and so we do not endorse any candidates. But on behalf of LULAC and the young people of LULAC, I would like to acknowledge that he has been an influential candidate and has been inspiring young people to take action. So please join me in welcoming Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders to the stage.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for that very lovely introduction. Let me begin by congratulating LULAC and congratulating all of you, especially the young people, for being here. And here is a simple truth. The future of this country depends upon the young people of America. And the younger generation today, thank God, is the most progressive young generation in the history of the United States of America. Your generation is anti-racist, you are anti-sexist, you are anti-homophobia, you are anti-religious bigotry. And thank you very much for that. That's the good news about your generation. Now let me give you the bad news. And it's not that you play video games all the time. The bad news is that while you are the most idealistic young generation, your idealism and your concerns will not impact the world unless you get involved deeply in the political process. And your job, and I know that by being here tonight, you are involved in the political process. But your job is to tell your friends when they ask you why you are involved, and then they start complaining about the cost of college or the low wages that they make, or they talk about climate change or the student debt that they have. You tell them that you're tired of listening to them moan and groan, that they have got to get involved in the political process so that we can deal with the issues that concern your generation. Now, it gives me no pleasure to tell you that we have a President of the United States today who is a racist and who is a bigot. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but that is the case. What President Trump is trying to do is to win re-election by doing what demagogues always do. And what demagogues try to do is to divide people up based on the color of their skin, or where they were born, or their religion, or their sexual orientation. That's what demagogues do. And they say, you see that person over there, you're supposed to hate that person. That's the reason why you're earning low wages. That's the reason why you don't have any health care. That's the reason why your kid can't afford to go to college. That's what demagogues always do. They try to divide people up. And what our job is to do is exactly the opposite. Trump wants to divide us up. Our job is to bring people together. And when we bring people together, we begin the process of fighting for an agenda that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And what that agenda is also about is the need for comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for 11 million undocumented people in this country. What that agenda is about, and as president, what I will do with executive order, is not only repeal all of Trump's racist executive orders, but we will once again provide legal status for the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. And we will also develop a humane border policy. And that means we will not tear babies out of the arms of their mothers. We will not put children in cages, but we will treat people who have traveled 1,000 miles by foot with the respect that they need as people who are fleeing violence and poverty. We will have a humane border policy, not one that criminalizes desperate people. But when we talk about a progressive agenda, it's not just the need for comprehensive immigration reform. It is the need to do in the United States what every other major country on earth does, and that is to guarantee health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. When we talk about a progressive agenda, what that means is that if anybody in this country works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty, which is why we have to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. And when we talk about a progressive agenda, we talk about education as well. When I was a kid a few years ago, and if somebody graduated high school, that person, everything being equal, could make it into the middle class and get a decent paying job. Well, the world has changed. And right now, for most of you to make it into the middle class, you're going to need a higher education. And that is why I believe two things. I believe that we should be making public colleges and universities tuition-free. Now, 4 years ago, when I introduced that idea, it seemed like a radical idea. It is not a radical idea anymore. Just today, the University of Texas announced that it was going to have tuition-free entry at the University of Texas in Austin for people 65,000 or under. In Tennessee, in California, in New York, progress is being made on making colleges tuition-free. And New York University School of Medicine, for those of you who are thinking about going to medical school, and we need more doctors, they announced a few months ago tuition-free medical school. But it's not just tuition-free public colleges that we need. We need to address the very serious problem of student debt in America. We got 45 million people dealing with student debt, and some of them are really struggling every month, paying off their student debt and then paying their rent and paying for their health care costs. And that is why I believe we have got to cancel all student debt in America. And we pay for that by placing a tax on Wall Street speculation. And the other issue that I know is on the minds of many of the young people, and in fact, people of all ages, not only here in the United States, but all over the world, is the issue of climate change. When Donald Trump tells you that climate change is a hoax, he is seriously and dangerously wrong. Climate change is not a hoax. Climate change is an existential threat to the entire planet. And what the scientists tell us, that if your generation is going to live in a healthy and habitable planet, we need to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And I have been very impressed. I have been very impressed by the younger generation standing up and saying to the fossil fuel industry, you cannot destroy this planet. So our job is to stand up to the fossil fuel energy. It's to transform our energy system. And by the way, when we do that, we create millions of good-paying jobs. A lot of other issues out there, and that is the need for criminal justice reform in America. It is the need to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. A lot of issues that are out there. But let me conclude by stating what I said in the beginning. This country is living right now in a very dangerous moment. We have a president who is undermining democracy. We have a president who gives huge tax breaks to billionaires while 500,000 people are sleeping out on the streets of America. Our job is not to make the very rich richer, it is to improve lives for working families and the middle class. So we need, let me conclude by saying that we need your help desperately in order to transform this country and create a government and an economy that works for all of us, to create a nation which has a sensible and humane immigration program and a fair criminal justice system. if young people in this country voted at the same level as older people did, we could transform this country from one end to the other. So what I beg of you, not just for me, but for yourselves and for your children, stand up and fight. Stand up and fight for justice, economic justice, social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice. You are the future of this country. Stand up and make this country a better place. Thank you all very much.